Where's Toadette? I want the Toadette. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Gamescades. Today and only today, we are here to talk about, that's right, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, which is probably a very rare topic that I would bring up here if it wasn't something important. So let's lock in and get right into it. So this giveaway of our dude here called Lee Cocker. I'm sorry, man. For the people that are asking, there will be no Mario and Sonic games for Paris 2024. The franchise finished with Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. I know because I worked on all the games in the franchise. Hashtag all this stuff. So this guy wrote this out of nowhere. I mean, it wasn't out of nowhere. Somebody was actually asking, you know, Twitter people about if we were going to get one. He sort of pulled up. And at first, some people were skeptical, but people found that he was on previous, you know, wikis and pages about the game, worked on it. And he even has a picture over here, you know, with the International Olympic Committee in 2009. So I feel like this would be an extremely random thing to lie about. But yeah, as far as we know, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games is that. Now, we didn't even need this guy necessarily to confirm this, right? In fact, I was really speculating in general that this summer during Games Fest and the Nintendo Direct that happened or Sonic Central, I was like, these feel like the last times a potential announcement for these things is happening. Because look, the Olympics is underway right now. Like literally the Paris 2024 Olympics have already begun. And typically we usually get these Olympic Games the same year or at the very least, you know, even a year before, or obviously in the case of, you know, Nintendo 2020 for the Olympics way before the event even happened, because I think the Tokyo Olympics happened like a year or two after the game happened because obviously of COVID and all that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of signs going into it. The fact that there's even a mobile game where it's just Sonic at the Olympics. In fact, there was an Olympic Games that came out, like a regular Olympics published by Sega, where all it really was is a Sonic costume. And it felt like they were finding ways to phase out Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. And there's two reasons for this, I think. One, licensing, right? Obviously, for those of you that don't know, the way these games work is they don't just make it Olympic Games for fun, right? They have to get the license to be able to make these games and work on them. Now, as far as I'm aware, the last person who had the rights to the Winter Olympics was Ubisoft, because they stopped making the Winter Olympic Sonic games after the Wii U, and we just started getting summer ones. And that was because Ubisoft ended up getting the licensing rights for the Winter Olympics. That's why they dropped their own Winter Olympic games. So that's how we stopped getting those ones. So already that was a moment of like, oh, this franchise is already kind of starting to get cut in half, right? It's a very weird situation that's going on. And I was looking it up, and as far as I know, there's not an official Paris Olympic Games going on right. Like there's not a licensed one, a regular one, a Mario Sonic one, or whatever. It seems to be like this year they just did not. No one got the license for the Paris Olympics, or it's going to be announced or shown much later. But as far as we know, the series is gone and dead, which is that's what I started wanting to talk about here, which is like, damn, what a crazy thing to have even happened in the first place and to be gone, right? Because I feel like if people don't think about enough how obviously, you know, 2007, there were the two major moments that felt like Sonic and Mario's rivalry sort of ended. Obviously, you could argue the rivalry ended when, you know, Sonic ended up on GameCube back in the day with Sonic Heroes or Sonic Adventure DX, or, you know, on the Game Boy Advance with Sonic Advance games. But it was different, right? There's a difference between like sort of being on the same ground versus then playing in the same territory. And around the 2007 time, 2008 time, we were getting Sonic and Brawl, and we got the crazy announcement of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, which to me, I will never forget how mind-blowing that was to me, because I was just a kid and I was finally seeing my two goats coexist. Right now, was it extremely random that the way these two truly came together with their entire cast was with the Olympics? Absolutely. But I remember at the time just eating that shit up. I'll never forget the first Olympic Games and how special it was, how fun it felt to do the events. That opening cinematic is so incredible, and it felt like a surreal experience. It was cool too, because I'm pretty sure Marza Planet also worked on the opening cinematics for it, so it just felt surreal, and you were seeing them participate in events that you would think, obviously some characters had obvious advantages over, like, you know, you'd have the running events, you'd have jumping events, you'd have, you know, badminton, or all these random events or triple jumps that the characters would go through. But it truly felt like a weird showcase celebration of the characters, because you were able, you know, to show, you know, Eggman and Bowser fighting against each other, or you were able to show characters like Metal Sonic or Tails or whatever whatever. Obviously, the cast grew as the games went by, but it felt truly surreal at the time. And then I think the series found itself in an interesting position where we got the first Olympic Games, it was fire, and then we got the Winter Olympics, which felt natural. You know, that felt like a natural evolution, right? That, you know, we got summer, it's time to do winter, and we got that. At that point, that's when we started to think like, okay, we got our summer and winter, this is a fun thing, it's done. But no, this just ended up being the big Olympic Games feature for a long time. In fact, we ended up getting so many of these. There was a London 2012 Olympics game, there was a Rio Olympic Games, there was another Winter Olympic Games that happened. I think it was the Vancouver one, and then there's the Tokyo version. Also, I remember at the time each game had a different version. So the DS version, there was a DS version of the original Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, which had different events. There was a 3DS version of the Winter Olympic Games, which also had different events. You had the 3DS and console versions of Mario and Sonic at the London Olympic Games, which to this day people say is the best one, and I tend to agree with that. I think the amount of events you had in there from handheld version and, you know, console version were really good, and I had a great time with that game. But let me know obviously if you have a favorite game or if you have a favorite event in those games. But I do think Wii U and forward was when it felt like, all right, I think we're kind of done with this, right? Because the Wii U ended up getting a Mario and Sonic Winter Olympic Games, which kind of felt generic and really bland. And then we got the Rio 2016 Olympics, which again felt really content dry and bland. And then we got Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympics on Nintendo Switch, which, to be fair, I played a lot of, and I think is one of the best ones. I think in terms of how many events it has, it's fire. I really like the campaign that has the character interactions. I love the classic events they had where they're all sprite based and all that. They don't have as many cool dream events, but I feel like at least the base game had a lot of content in there. And speaking of dream events, that was something that I still think to this day is such a cool heart and soul of the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. For those of you that don't know, basically each game had these sort of special events where that's where you got a lot of the charm of the world of Mario and Sonic. So you would have special dream events in each of the games. So, you know, you'd be in like a Mushroom Kingdom location, a Galaxy place, you'd get remixes of Mario games or Sonic locations. You could have different Sonic areas in there, and they would like mix and match areas from the different series to do cool stuff. And I felt like that was so dope. And looking back at it, some of these dream events were actually insane. You were getting, you know, looks at some Frozen Chaos boss fights. You were going through Mario tracks. You were looking at incredible levels and areas throughout the entire series. You were fighting in areas like Bowser's Castles. You were getting Mario item blocks from Mario Kart. You were getting literally Sonic Riders type beats. You were getting ice skating in Mario boss levels. It was insane, the shit they were doing in these locations. Like, and they just had them interacting in such funny ways throughout them. And I think throughout the years, they definitely got less unique, right? I think when you look back at the starting dream events versus the later ones, it's night and day, right? You were getting, you know, areas like Sunset Coast or even Mario boss areas like Bowser's Castle throughout, and then they just sort of becoming like, oh, colorful non-canon thing. But the early ones they were doing were actually fucking crazy, especially the London 2012 ones or the winter ones. I just felt like they did such a good job of showing so much of the series' heart through these dream events. And one of my favorite things about this series was just seeing these characters interact, even for just a brief moment, right? Like, I think it's Rio 2016. It has these like custom win animations with the characters, which I love so much. They're so charming. You've probably seen a bunch of them around social media. And I feel like that was something that I think really proved how these characters, right, the Mario and Sonic ones, could really have a good time together in another world, right, another game, right? Because a lot of these characters, not are parallels, but at least could have some sort of dynamic. Obviously, you know, Mario ones talk, you know, much less, and whatever game or project they would do would have to be another silly one. But I would love if they locked in and just did something else, right? And that's where my big question goes to, right? Like, if this series is dead, is this the end of Mario and Sonic like interacting and coexisting in the game? Because remember, Sega developed these games, and so I feel like obviously they are still in discussions with Nintendo. But you know, Tokyo Olympics was 4 years ago now, and we have yet to see another Sonic and Mario real interaction. Obviously, you know, we'll always have some mini ones when it comes to Smash or whatever, but it's not really the same thing. And I would love to know what project or game they're gonna tackle next. And I understand Iizuka and Kishimoto have said like they'd love to do a crossover game with Mario and Sonic when they feel like Sonic's platforming is at the level with Mario to do an actual platformer where these two belong. But until then, I would love a spin-off. You know, I don't mind these two being in spin-off world until then. Like, I feel like it shouldn't end at the Olympics. Like, you know, give us a new kart racer by Sega where some of the Mario characters could feature. I understand Nintendo wouldn't want to do that because obviously they have Mario Kart and they're like, we are not touching anything that isn't Mario Kart when it comes to that. But a party game, bro, dude, like, imagine a legitimate Mario Party with Sonic characters. I feel like to me that's the dream. You could have so many cool mini games and events. I mean, these Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games were basically mini game collections, right? At the end of the day, these things were mini game collections that were hidden with Olympic sports. Obviously, there's a little bit of depth to them in terms of, you know, getting the gold medals or trying to learn your moves or timing your attacks and all that stuff. But for the most part, like these were just mini games. So, you know, if they just threw it a board game in there, called it Mario and Sonic at the party, that'd be fire, right? And even, dude, a fighting game, right? Matt, dude, picture this, right? You get a CG trailer, it starts to see Sonic walk in the arena, Mario walk to the arena, they start fighting, right? And then it just goes to Mario versus Sonic, which would be awesome. And I think, honestly, if someone was gonna make that fighting game, it would be Sega, right? Put Sonic characters and Mario characters against each other. It could be a traditional 2D fighter, or it could be, you know, more of a 3D arena fighter, sort of maybe Sonic the Fighter style from back in the day, or even something like a Soul Calibur or Tekken. Like, I feel like that would be a really, really cool idea for this cast of characters. Obviously, I don't want to stray too far from the topic of the Olympics, but let me know, obviously, which type of crossover you'd love to see. But yeah, these Olympic Games to me, like I was saying, were such a weird run, and I've bought in all of them. I remember, like, I know that I've got every single one of them and I played them, but it's kind of surreal to think that half of them were just the same fucking game, you know, like for the most part you were just playing the same events with the same characters. Sometimes they throw in characters or extra bonus ones or secret unlocks, but for the most time you were just kind of buying a licensed game hidden with Nintendo and Sonic characters, which I thought was cool. You know, I think I would rather that than, you know, go buy a bland Olympics game copy with a Sonic costume in it, or some regular event. But yeah, no, it's kind of sad. It's a little bit just sad to see, not because these games were that great. In fact, I think the series was in a decline for a bit, but for a long time, by the way, those games sold a shit ton of copies, right? Because it felt like it was a crossover thing. Parents loved buying it for the kids, you know, fans of the series liked buying it. It felt like they were a massive popular hit for a while. The advertisements they used to do for these games were hysterical. It just felt like they had a thing going. But I do feel, and I think everybody agrees, that at some point it was like, all right, here's another one of these, right? As opposed to like getting excited for them, because I think you can't recreate the magic of that, right? You know, you did the Olympics twice, I feel like, and while some of the iterations could be better than others, I do feel like, and I think people agree, it peaked at the Wii era. I feel like those games were Wii era games, and when it came to the Wii U or the Switch, we should have at that point moved on to a different type of series, right? But at least for now, that's the end of that, and I wonder if they're at least going to continue with Sonic at the Olympics, because there is a mobile game called Sonic at the Olympic Games where none of the Mario characters are there. I do know when you go to arcades, they do have Mario and Sonic cabinets actually in there for the Olympics, but I just wonder if Sega is just gonna at least continue the Olympics at some point and just have it be Sonic characters. But part of me hopes they don't. Not because, you know, I don't want more Sonic games, but I just feel like this series was always Mario and Sonic. And I feel like if you go to just Sonic, as much as I'd like it because it's Sonic, I feel like you will lose part of that charm, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not crazy when it comes to that, right? I feel like I would rather something different there. But that's really everything. I mean, it just, this news report came out, so I just thought I'd talk about it. I thought it was a bit of a bummer, right? And this is a video I feel like that could last forever until we see it. But like I said, I would love to see them coexist again. I feel like that's my biggest takeaway, is like, this series being dead should open a door eventually, because I don't think we should live in a world where Mario and Sonic characters shouldn't interact. I mean, I feel like these games prove that these two series can be celebrated side by side. And like I said, it doesn't have to be something serious. It doesn't have to be the end-all be-all Sonic platformer that people have always dreamed of, right? It could just be a fun party game, a fun beat-em-up even, a fun racing game, just something at least to keep these two in a realm together, because they are super fun together and they have cool interactions. And let me know, of course, if you could, what were some of your favorite memories or dream events, right? I know there's a lot of dream events in the series. Which ones did you really love? But yeah, just thought I'd talk about that, guys. Let me know what you think about Mario and Sonic at the Olympics being a dead series. Are you sad? Are you okay with it? Did you want them to move on? Let me know. And of course, I love you. I'll see you all next time. Peace out.